Welcome to Walking Tour of Japan, a podcast dedicated to bringing you a new adventure somewhere in Japan with every episode. Each week we'll travel to a different destination, from ancient temples and stunning gardens to fascinating cities, historic landmarks, and hidden gems tucked away across this incredible country. If you're gearing up for your own trip, head over to northstartravelers.com, where you'll find gear recommendations to help you travel smarter, plus a full list of our other podcast shows covering destinations around the world. If you love discovering new places and planning your next adventure, follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leaving a positive review goes a long way in helping others find it. Now let's explore Japan. You're standing at the edge of one of the most electric intersections on Earth. The light is red, the traffic is flowing, and on all four corners of this enormous junction, hundreds of people are pressed together on the curb, waiting. There is a tension in the air, not an anxious tension, but something more like anticipation, like the moment before a symphony begins. You're at Shibuya Crossing in Tokyo, and in a matter of seconds, everything around you is going to move at once. This place deserves an entire episode to itself because it is unlike any other spot you will visit in Japan. Most of the destinations in this series ask you to slow down, to walk quietly through temple grounds, to pause beside a garden pond, to listen for the sound of wind through bamboo. Shibuya asks you to step into the current. It is not a place of stillness. It is a place of pure, concentrated, organized human energy. And understanding it, really understanding it, changes the way you see Tokyo entirely. So let's begin exactly where you are, right here at street level, because that is where this story starts. The light is still red. Glance around. On your left, towering video screens cascade color down the face of a building. Advertisements, music videos, animated sequences running in brilliant loops. Above you, a crosswalk signal blinks its countdown. The sound is a low city roar, engines idling, crowds murmuring, the distant chime of a train departing somewhere inside the massive station behind you. That station, the one you likely just walked out of, has been here in one form or another since 1885. It began as a single stop on what was then a modest railway line running south out of central Tokyo. At that point, this whole neighborhood was a quiet residential and commercial area, far from the center of power and culture. Then the trains came and everything changed. By 1932, the Tokyo-Toyoko line had connected this station to the port city of Yokohama, making it a genuine transit hub. Workers, merchants, and commuters began passing through in numbers that nobody had anticipated. The area around the station started filling in fast. Shops, restaurants, department stores, entertainment venues, and the crossing itself, the one you're standing at right now, evolved alongside all of that growth. The scramble system you're about to experience, where all traffic stops simultaneously and pedestrians cross from every direction at once, was officially inaugurated here in 1973. Before that, it was a more ordinary intersection. The scramble design changed it into something theatrical, something that would eventually make it one of the most photographed places on the planet. The light turns green, go, step off the curb and into it. Around you, a river of people flows in every direction, diagonal, straight across, corner to corner, and somehow, miraculously, nobody collides. Watch the way people move. There is no pushing. Shoulders angle slightly, feet adjust, bodies curve around one another in a kind of unconscious choreography. Up to 3,000 people can cross during a single green light cycle. You are one small note in a very large chord right now, and the whole thing resolves perfectly every 2 minutes all day long. Reach the other side and turn to look back. This is your first real view of it as a whole. The full width of the intersection, the buildings rising on every corner, the screens blazing, the next wave of pedestrians already gathering on the curbs. Take a moment here. You've just done something that appears in countless films. Lost in Translation used this crossing as a backdrop for its most disorienting and beautiful scenes. The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift, tore through here in the dead of night. Persona 5, the acclaimed video game set in Tokyo, recreated this junction with extraordinary precision. The crossing has appeared in anime, music videos, international news broadcasts, and a painting that now hangs in the National Portrait Gallery in London. It has become shorthand for Tokyo itself, for the city's speed, its density, its spectacular organization. And yet for the people who cross it every single day, the office workers, the students, the delivery cyclists threading their way through, It is simply how you get from one side of the street to the other. That contrast between icon and ordinary is something you will feel very specifically if you let yourself be present right now. Now move to your left and walk toward the corner of the station, because there is something you need to meet before you go any further. Tucked just beside the Hachiko exit of the station, you'll see the signs and the small crowd gathered around a bronze figure stands one of the most beloved statues in all of Japan, a small dog, seated and alert, gazing patiently toward the station exit. His name was Hachiko, and his story is one of the most quietly devastating things this city has to offer. In the 1920s, a professor at Tokyo Imperial University, a man who loved dogs deeply, adopted an Akita puppy and named him Hachiko. Every morning, the dog would walk with the professor to the station, and every afternoon he would return and wait at the exit for his owner to come home. This went on for over a year, a daily ritual that became a small fixture of the neighborhood. Then one afternoon in 1925, the professor didn't come back. He had suffered a fatal brain hemorrhage at work and died before he could return. Hachiko came back to the station the next day, and the day after that. He came back every single afternoon for 9 more years, waiting at the exit until trains stopped running, then making his way home and returning again the next day. He became a celebrity, a symbol, a living embodiment of devotion so pure it made people stop and look. A statue was erected here in his honor in 1934, 1 year before the dog passed away. The original was melted down for metal during World War II, and the one you're looking at now was cast by the son of the original sculptor, placed back in this spot after the war ended. People leave flowers here sometimes, tourists pose beside him, children reach up to touch his ears, and somewhere in the crowd around you right now, there is probably at least one person who already knows the story and is quietly moved by it anyway. Stand here for a moment and look back at the crossing from this angle. You're slightly elevated just off the main flow of traffic. This is actually one of the better spots to watch the scramble without being in it. You get a sense of the whole picture from the side, which is different from the overwhelming immersion of being in the center. If you want an even higher perspective, there are a few options worth knowing about. The Starbucks in the building directly across from the station has large windows on the upper floor that look directly down onto the crossing. It fills up quickly, especially in the mornings, so if you want a seat, either arrive early or be patient. If you prefer something more dramatic, the observation deck on the upper floors of Shibuya Scramble Square, the tall tower just to your east, offers a 360-degree aerial view, including the crossing far below. That one has an admission fee, but is genuinely spectacular, especially at dusk when the neon lights begin to ignite and the city shifts into its evening mode. But for now, keep your feet on the ground. There is more to discover at street level. Walk north from the statue, away from the crossing, and head up into the neighborhood itself. The area you're entering is called Center Gai, and it is exactly what it sounds like. A central street, pedestrianized, packed with shops and cafes and music spilling out of doorways. This is the commercial heart of Shibuya and has been the pulse point of Tokyo youth culture since the 1960s. Fashion, music, street style, the trends that define what young Japan looks like have often originated within a few blocks of where you're walking right now. The shopping tower called Shibuya 109, which you'll spot on your left as you head up from the crossing, has been one of the most influential fashion landmarks in the country for decades. It began as a department store and became something closer to a cultural institution, its circular exterior as recognizable to Tokyoites as the crossing itself. As you walk, listen for the layers of sound, music from multiple stores competing gently, the click of heels on pavement, the recorded announcements drifting out of shop doorways, the particular frequency of a city that is never fully asleep. Even if you're visiting mid-morning on a weekday, and mid-morning on a weekday is actually a lovely time to be here when the neighborhood has energy but not yet the full density of evening, you'll feel the aliveness of this place. Continue up and then angle slightly left, following signs toward Miyashita Park. This is a place that surprises visitors who haven't read about it. What was once a flat, unremarkable park running along the elevated railway tracks has been completely transformed into a multi-level public space. Shops and restaurants on the lower floors, a hotel above, and a long landscaped rooftop park running along the entire upper level. It opened in 2020 and was immediately embraced by locals who needed a green escape that didn't require leaving the neighborhood entirely. Walk up to the rooftop if you have time. There are benches, trees, patches of grass, skateboarding areas, and views out over the surrounding blocks that give you a different kind of perspective on this very vertical city. On a clear day, the sky above you feels surprisingly wide for somewhere this urban. Inside the Miyashita Park building on the ground floor is Shibuya Yokocho, a covered food alley stretching about 100 meters, designed to look like a vintage shopping arcade, with around 20 small stalls, each representing a different region of Japan. Sapporo miso ramen at one counter, grilled chicken from Miyazaki at another, seafood bowls from Hokkaido at a third. It runs from lunchtime through late night and is a wonderful place to eat if you want variety and atmosphere in one place. The noise level in the evenings is joyful and chaotic in the best way. This is food as social event. Now let's slip away from the main flow for a moment because Shibuya rewards those who look sideways. About a 5-minute walk north from the station, up Miyamasuzaka, and then into the residential edge of the neighborhood, is a narrow alley that has been here since 1952. It is called Nonbei Yokocho, which translates quite directly as Drunkard's Alley, and it is barely 2 meters wide. On both sides, lanterns hang from the eaves of tiny izakayas, each one holding perhaps 6 to 8 seats at a low counter. The buildings are old, weathered, pressed together, lit by the warm amber of paper lanterns and neon signs faded to something softer than brand new. It feels like stepping through a door in time. This alley emerged from the food stalls that sprang up in Shibuya after the end of World War II, when people were rebuilding their lives and their city, and small businesses formed the connective tissue of neighborhood life. Over the decades, while everything around it grew taller and shinier and faster, this little strip stayed largely as it was. It now has around 40 small establishments, izakayas, wine bars, tiny bistros, and the mix of regulars, locals, and curious visitors who crowd in on weekday evenings creates exactly the kind of accidental community that modern cities often struggle to produce. If you arrive after dark and duck into one of the counter seats, the person next to you might be an office worker still in a suit, or a chef from the restaurant 2 doors down, or a couple of travelers who stumbled in the same way you did. The space is too small for anyone to stay distant. This is a different Shibuya than the one at the crossing, quieter in feeling even when it isn't quiet in sound, more personal, worth finding. Come back now toward the main station area and let's walk inside for just a moment. There's something most visitors walk past without noticing. Inside the station, near the corridor that connects the JR lines to the Keio Inokashira line, there is a mural. It is enormous, about 30 meters wide, painted in bold, dynamic shapes, oranges and yellows and deep reds exploding across the wall. It was created by the Japanese artist Taro Okamoto and is called Myth of Tomorrow. It depicts the moment of a nuclear explosion, fragmented figures caught in the blast, an image that is simultaneously terrifying and luminously beautiful. Okamoto painted it in the late 1960s, but it disappeared for decades, sold, stored, lost, before being rediscovered in Mexico in the 1990s. It was brought back to Japan and installed here in 2008. Every day, more than 2 million people pass through this station. Most of them walk directly under this painting without looking up. If you pause in front of it for even 5 minutes, you will feel the particular strangeness of a powerful anti-war statement installed in the world's busiest subway interchange, surrounded by people checking their phones and pulling rollerboard luggage and rushing to make their train. Okamoto might have appreciated that contrast. He spent his career insisting that art should live in the middle of ordinary life, not separate from it. That, in a way, is what Shibuya itself keeps doing. It refuses to separate things, the commercial and the intimate, the historical and the hypermodern, the meditative and the overwhelming. All of it exists within a few blocks of each other, layered, folded in, accessible to anyone willing to look past the surface. Step back outside now. Find a place to stand that isn't in anyone's way, a corner, a step, a patch of curb, and just watch. Not the crossing necessarily, just the neighborhood. Watch the way people navigate around each other. Watch the light change on the screens. Watch a group of school kids in uniform walk in a careful line through the crowd. Watch a man in a suit stop to buy something from a vending machine without breaking his stride. Watch the city doing what it does. Shibuya has been shaped by trains and fashion and loyalty and tragedy and commerce and nightlife and youth and time. It is one of the most visited places in Japan and also somehow still genuinely itself. That is harder to achieve than it sounds. Before we wrap up, a few words about what else is worth your time in this neighborhood. If you have a few extra hours, head north on foot toward Harajuku. It's about a 15-minute walk, and the route takes you through some of the most interesting streets in the city. You'll pass through the Omotesando area, which is lined with flagship stores from international fashion houses, and if you duck south onto the side streets, you'll find the quieter, more residential blocks of Aoyama. The contrast between Omotesando's polished avenues and the neighborhood streets just behind them is striking and worth experiencing slowly. Takashita Street in Harajuku is the other direction entirely. Chaotic, colorful, dedicated to the kind of extreme youth fashion that has made this particular corridor internationally famous. Crepe stands, vintage stores, cosplay shops, and an absolute crush of people on weekends. It's not for everyone, but if you want to see one of the most concentrated expressions of Japanese pop culture creativity anywhere in the country, that is your street. For food, if you missed the Yokocho inside Miyashita Park and you're looking for a solid, classic ramen experience, Ichiran on Jinan, just a short walk north of the station, serves tonkotsu ramen from individual booth seating, where you order through a small counter window and eat in your own quiet compartment. It's a uniquely Japanese ramen format, focused, efficient, and surprisingly peaceful, given that you're a few hundred meters from the world's busiest crossing. The line moves steadily. It is worth it. For a meal with a view, the restaurant on the upper floors of the Shibuya Excel Hotel looks directly over the crossing and is open for lunch as well as dinner. Watching the scramble from above with food in front of you is a specific Shibuya pleasure worth having at least once. And if the night is young when you finish walking and you want to end the evening with something that feels genuinely local, follow your feet back to Nonbei Yokocho after dark, choose a lantern-lit counter, and order whatever the person behind it recommends. You won't need much Japanese to make that work. A nod, a gesture, an open expression, that's often enough. Now find a good spot, maybe back at the crossing itself on one of the corners, standing with the crowd waiting for the light, or up at the observation deck if you went earlier, looking down from the sky, or in the alley on a stool with a drink you can hold with both hands. Wherever you are, look at what's around you. This city, this neighborhood, this specific intersection, it has been described and photographed and filmed so many times that it risks becoming a postcard before you've actually experienced it. But you're here now. You crossed it. You found the dog. You found the alley. You looked up at the mural. You walked the rooftop and felt the city from above. Shibuya is a place that asks something of you in return for what it offers. It asks you to be in it, not just at it. And if you've spent this walk doing exactly that, moving through it, looking sideways, slowing down inside the speed, then you've seen the real thing. Not the crossing as background, but the crossing as place, as neighborhood, as a piece of living Tokyo that has been growing and changing and carrying its history forward since a quiet train station opened on this spot over 100 years ago. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Before you go, a few quick things. Subscribe so you never miss a destination, leave us a positive review to help others find the show, and share this episode with someone who loves exploring Japan. And if you're hungry for more adventures beyond Japan, visit northstartravelers.com to explore our other podcast shows and browse gear recommendations for wherever your next journey takes you. Your support means the world and keeps these adventures coming. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next walk.